Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Isra Rodriguez and welcome to Global Dance News. My mission is to provide you with news of what's going on in the dance world. Whether that news is positive or negative, it doesn't matter. I want to bring you tutorials, interviews, and I want to hear your opinions in the same way I want you to hear mine. I could disagree with yours and you can disagree with mine, no problem at all. But today is a very special day because it's the first episode of the first season. So I'm very excited because I'm starting this with an interview to a dear friend of mine and a great teacher, Peter Stark. Peter Stark was not only a dancer, he was the Orlando Ballet School director. Then he became the founding director of Next Generation in Tampa. Right now he works at Boston Ballet as the associate director of Boston Ballet too, and so many other things. His experience and reputation as a teacher has been amazing. Alright guys, enough about me talking and I will go straight to the interview. I hope you enjoy it and I'll see you in a few minutes. And here we are with Peter. Peter, thank you so much for being here, my friend. It's been so long since I saw you last time.
My pleasure.
Peter, is there something that you remember not liking when you were a dancer?
I'm going to silence my phone because, of course, everybody's communicating through our devices these days. What I've always there's one thing that I don't like about ballet, and it has remained consistent from my days as a student to my days as a professional to my days as an administrator and teacher, and that is there is an aspect of judgment in this field, which can feel very similar to prejudice. The art was developed at a certain time in history on a certain body type. And no matter how good of a mover or how wonderful an artist someone may be, a ballet dancer particularly can be judged on factors outside of their control. And it can feel like prejudice in ways that are very uncomfortable for me. For instance, you might hear people assessing a dancer saying something like, their neck is too short or their spine is too long. And I'm not sure what the difference is between that and their skin is too light or their skin is too dark. To me, these are innate human factors and we're different as human beings. And it's very uncomfortable for me that the field judges individuals by innate human qualities that are unchangeable.
Actually, that brings me to another question. Is now that I drift from a dancer to a teacher, I can see a lot of kids very confused about what I'm about to ask you. Should you tell a parent or a kid, hey, listen, you need to lose weight? And if so, what would be the best way to say that?
My perspective has changed on this over the years, and I actually now strongly feel that you should not say anything. If you want to address the level of cardio health, in other words, any dancer's ability to improve their stamina, to improve their musculature in terms of making muscles stronger, making muscles more elastic, I feel like those are things well within one's ability to guide another to improve. But in terms of saying you're overweight, I actually don't think that we are educated enough as dance professionals to make that recommendation. If you feel that a dancer is struggling internally because they feel that they are themselves too thin or too heavy, or if you have concerns, I mean, certainly, if you have concerns that somebody especially is too thin, which can certainly create lifelong health problems. I think the best thing to do is to try to send that person to a health expert. So at Boston Ballet, we are very lucky that we have a full-time health team. So if we feel that there is an issue, we can say, why don't you see our physical therapy team to do an assessment on ways you might be able to improve, very vaguely, and then they will immediately be able to see this person has a low body mass or high body mass, and then find ways that they can address that issue that will not be emotionally scarring to that individual. But
it's very sensitive. It's true. It's very sensitive.
I used to feel very, I used to be like, I mean, my generation, I mean, I remember teachers smoking the entire time during class and, hitting and having, and things are changing. And, I can't say that I don't miss some of like, let's just get it done. And, it's getting so politically correct. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do. But with health, I do feel like an individual's health is more important than the field of dance, which is a very short career. And I think if somebody is having an issue with their body, that you should elicit health professionals to assist you with that and not dive into that yourself as a dance educator.
But don't you think, for example, if you have students that are very talented and you don't see them taking care of themselves, obviously your body changes as you grow, but sometimes them even knowing that they don't take care of themselves, or the parents have no idea how to control that, don't you think that it would be a good way to go to the parents and say, listen, this person or that girl, this guy, they have so much talent, but I think that they are not taking care of it. If they want to be a professional dancer, they need to be careful. They need to see what they're eating. So
I hear what you're saying, and I said once upon a time I would agree with you, but I don't anymore. I feel like Miko Nissen, the director of Boston Ballet, says often the cream rises to the top, and I agree with that. That the people that are hungry will figure it out, and not everybody figuratively hungry. Not everybody has the emotional wherewithal to be an athlete of any kind. I mean, I look at Tom Brady, who is very sorry to see leave the Patriots and go to Tampa, but 42 years old, lasting 18 years in a career at the very highest level, is remarkable. And some of that is genetic, but a lot, he's incredibly disciplined. He drinks all this water. He has his whole workout routine. He's very involved in stretching in addition to strengthening. But that's a mindset, and it's a drive that not everybody has, and you can't force that on somebody.
Now, Peter,
in terms of, wait just for 1 second, I think in terms of health and in terms of eating, it's better as dance educators to offer young dancers the tools to make those decisions early on. So in other words, if you have a 10 to 14-year-old student, set up not just once a year, but a regular meeting with nutritionists so that they learn about good nutrition. They learn the difference between having a Snickers bar and having a handful of nuts, or having, gummy bears or a sliced apple. Now, I mean, these are simplistic examples, but it's interesting. A lot of people don't understand good nutrition. I mean, even, I see so many kids having these, big frothy Starbucks drinks before classes, and they don't realize that, one of those caramel Starbucks, it's like a milkshake. I mean, there's so many calories in that, but it's not my job to say, hey, that has a lot of calories. But what we can do as dance educators is set up meetings with nutritionists and they can educate and say, okay, so you can have this Starbucks, or you can have this gigantic salad. And this is how long this will last, and this is what this will do to your body, and this is what to making a healthier choice will do. But at the end of the day, it is their choice, and this is a very elite field. I will say, as an educator, in my early years of teaching, I've been teaching for more than 2 decades. I really pushed. If I saw talent, I pushed, and I did everything I could to make that talent succeed. And some of them made it, and some of them didn't. And there were other students that I did not push as hard, that I just simply was there and presented the information, and they on their own took it and ran. And I feel like those are the people that tend to be more successful in the long run. You have to want it yourself. So as an
That's
educator
perfect.
out there, you can put the buffet, and they have to pick what they want to eat. But
Perfect. Perfect.
figuratively, again, they can take the class, with an intensity. You can't force that intensity. I mean, you can, but it'll burn out. I've discovered that as a teacher. I can sit next to someone and say, straighten your knee, point your foot, blah, blah, blah. And they'll do it. But the minute I walk away, they go like this. And somebody else just has that drive within them. So it's really up to the students to find that in themselves.
Thank you, Peter, so much. That's a great information. That's one of the reasons I wanted to interview you, because I remember you, from Orlando Ballet and everything, how much you put into students. Some of them are already superstars and everything, which brings me another question. As an educator right now, that you've been training a lot of students, boys and girls, in your opinion, what make a dancer a good dancer? Is the tempirouette, the big jumps, is their physique?
Well, Israel, you and I have a mentor in common, and that was Fernando Bajones. And I remember when I was working with Fernando as his assistant in Ballet, Mississippi. I was the associate director there. We worked together in Orlando, where I was running the school, but I was associate director in Mississippi. And when it was his first company that he took, even before Monterey, and you worked with him in Monterey as well. And so at the time, there was, even though it was a small company in a small city, there was a lot of interest in people wanting to come and dance with him. And it was the first time that I was on the other side of the room, and I was still dancing for him at the time, actually. But I was there at the auditions with him side by side, and I would watch him, look at the dancers and assess them, and he'd look at somebody, and I think, well, why does he like that one? It was just odd to me, the people he picked. And yet, as working with him in 2 companies, and I worked with him in I guess 3 companies, Boston and then Mississippi and Orlando. He had such an eye, and the dancers he picked were so strong and so dynamic. And whether he had a big company or a small company, he knew how to pick strong dancers and people that really excited the audience. And it was always surprising to me. And I asked him once, I said, Fernando, what do you see in a dancer? What is it that you're looking for? And he said, that was it. Heart. Yeah. I remember he just did this. That was it.
And I think that's very important, because sometimes I feel that maybe just nowadays people are more inclined to, I need to do tempirouette, otherwise or 5, 10, 7, whatever. So
that is real. And the other thing are these competitions, because the competitions are so ruled by the European judges, because the European schools have the biggest offers in terms of dorm and tuition and whatnot. And they're really, and they are falling back into the history of ballet, the 300-year-old history. And so they're really looking for bodies. So oftentimes, especially in student competitions, you see, it's a real body search. But the reality is, the bodies don't excite the audiences. It's the drive and the artistry. So sometimes some really dynamic dancers get lost in the shuffle at a competition. Listen, if you can have both and you have a David Hallberg, well, yes, of course. You've got the body and the look, and the artistry and the drive. And yeah, of course, that's what we all want. But, at the end of the day, there are some really interesting exceptions to the rule of people that do not have perfect form, but just have this incredible drive to entertain and to express themselves, through this art form of ballet. And that is ultimately the most important. And I will say, there's been several students that I felt were good students and I like them, but I didn't think they were going to necessarily make it, that went extremely far. And it was such a good lesson for me to learn, that don't judge a book by its cover. You have to really look inside. And if you see that someone has that drive, they can do it.
And it's sometimes very sad that you see a student with so much drive and passion for the dance, but mm, their body are not the same. They struggle with what they eat, and you
Yeah.
see them like, oh my god, but this guy. We have students that they are like 24 hours working and working, and it's sometimes they come. No, I'm not saying here in Mobile, but in general, is that's like, why do I have this passion, but then I don't have that body? I don't have this technique, and could be frustrating sometimes. Which actually remind me something about competitions. I'm breaking again about the competitions. We both have brought students to competitions, but I always have this question. It's important for a student to go to competitions in order for them to make it in the industry of ballet, of dancing, to become professional. The reason I'm asking is because I have also students asking me, what if I go to competition and I don't win? What if I go to competition and there is other people better than me? And of course, I tell them my point of view. Since you've been also very close to competitions, what is your take on that? It's important or not?
Um, I think it can be. It says my internet. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think competitions can be a wonderful tool in a young dancer's training, but I do not think it's necessary. And even if it is a wonderful tool, if for a finite period. I don't think it's a means to an end. Another one of my mentors, Bruce Marks, who I know you also worked with, said very he's a wonderfully loquacious and intelligent and articulate man, almost more than anybody I've met in or out of dance. But he said the process is the prize. So for competitions, it's not about winning the medal. It's about getting the private coaching, about getting the stage time, working on a piece that's really too hard for you. You're teaching a young dancer principal variation, and as we know, you don't join a company as a soloist or principal. You join in the court of ballet, and you work for 5 to Stella Abrera 19 years before you get to do those roles. So to let a 15 or a 17-year-old do a principal role, but it can build confidence and it can be very valuable. But again, it's a finite period in a young dancer's life. The other thing that competitions have done is they have allowed a sense of globalization that's been really remarkable. So you have dancers from very small schools that are well trained, use that as a way to audition for 20 different other larger schools associated with big companies around the world. So again, you mentioned, Orlando. When I was at Orlando, we saw students go to Stuttgart, go to Royal, go to ABT, that would not have otherwise had that opportunity. Uh, so it has connected us in a lot of ways. So I do think competitions are a positive in general, but I don't think it's a necessity. And I also don't think, I think that it has to stop. If you do it, you have to understand that you're only doing it for a finite period of time.
That's correct, because that's why sometimes when my students, they ask me like, Mr. Isa, do you think I should go this year to the competition? And we encourage them to go, of course, But then sometimes I'm worried that they may discourage themselves if they don't win. Obviously, like you said before, as an educator, that's why you talk to them. You kind of psychologically you talk to them and you make them to understand that it's not about the winning only. There's a lot of things. They're working one-on-one with a coach. They need to have this healthy mentality when they go. And they need to understand that when you go there, you might see people better than you, or maybe not.
And the other thing that concerns me is, whereas I think one-on-one is something unique, and if you look at the other classical arts, music and instrumental music and vocal music, the instruction often is one-to-one only. You're not learning in a group setting unless you're part of an orchestra. But even then, even in an orchestra, you're working on your instrument separately, one-to-one with your teacher. But that's not how ballet is. Ballet, most of what we do is not one-to-one. It's in a group setting. We take class in groups, we rehearse in groups. Even a principal dancer, as you and I know, and we've been fortunate to do some nice roles, you might have your separate coaching on your variation or your duet, but then you're going to go back into the group and join the group. And what I've seen at some schools, which is a big concern to me, is you see a student doing, let's say, a private lesson at 8:30 a.m. because they're stacking them, or at 10:30 p.m. And that is taking precedent over class, because at the end of the day, the way we train in this art form is we take class to start our day, and we work together to make these dances. So the other thing I'm going to say is don't put the cart before the horse. I do think one-on-one time is important, and I think that I'm glad to see that classical ballet is incorporating that into our training, but we at the same time have to emphasize that this is a group activity. Which is why, with this COVID-19, it's so disheartening that we can't be together.
It's unbelievable.
It's really emotionally devastating for all of us. And I know we will be again, but I think our art form of all of the classical arts might be, some of the most hard hit.
Very nice, Peter. Thank you so much. I have a couple more questions. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about dance moms. And there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, obviously leave a comment and take a look at the links below, and come back to see the next part, because his answer to some of my questions are very valuable. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and be safe, guys.